DDC customers are #1. My decals and peace fingers. Here's our little guitar sticker. I love this watermelon. We sell these Pinky Promise, little Midwest hat. Some weird little crab, wiener dog, big pretzel, yellow mustard hat.
Yeah.
Okay, so my presentation today is called What I've Learned Since March 15th, all right? Changes, some lessons, and even a couple sort of gentle enlightenments, you guys, all right? Hello, my name is Aaron James Draplin. I'm 47 years old. I'm a graphic designer here in Portland, Oregon, working out of my backyard studio. We'll get to that in a second, but I'm coming at you guys virtually. Look at this, virtually. Look at that, motion graphics, you guys. Come on, spice it up a little bit, fellas. All right, thank you. I don't know what you guys know about me, but I hope that you know that I love to make logos. I hope you know about field notes. We've exhausted the entire French paper line. All these years, there's 12 years, I know, with Jim Coudal and the gang out in Chicago. Every couple months, we have a new set coming out, always. All this merch. I know you guys know about the merch. You have ravaged my merch tables for years at Adobe Max, and thank you so much, you guys. You know, everything changed, and we don't get to go do, merch tables like this anymore. This is at the Portland Night Market. We do that every, 3-4 months. It all changed. I hope you guys know about my Skillshares. Our 6th one just came out. That thing is raging along. Thank you to everyone who checks those things out. Number 7 is in the works. If you know our DDC, hardware typeface, this is the first, I'm not a typographer. This is the first time I ever made a typeface. This thing is working in places like Stranger Things on your Netflix, but also at a fish fry back in Illinois, all right? So it's doing the job for all sorts of people. I don't really get to go on the road anymore. Adobe Max was always the big sort of, peak of our fall tour, but they looked like this, 16, 17, 18 shows, whatever it is, but it all changed, 450 shows in the last 8 or 9 years. Thank you so much. Going to places like, Bratislava, Slovakia. Now check this one out. Here's an action shot where I'm, these are all the water bottles that I stole in the backstage and I'm throwing them out to the crowd, which turns out even in Slovakia is a bit of a, you're not supposed to do that because you could hurt people. So I hope you know about the book. The book is continuing to sell. It's somewhere like 55,000, 60,000, who knows? I lost count, but it's still selling. And thank you so much to everyone who bought one at Adobe Max or on the road with us or really Amazon, whatever. Thank you. And then this little guy. Now listen, the monster that I built for myself the last, 10, 15 years, there's a lot of momentum. And I don't know how to stop this stuff. I didn't get into graphic design to make bunch of money. I got into graphic design to make a living, to pay off my school loans, to take care of my mom and girlfriend and, sisters and stuff, right? That's what I got into. But when this little monster came along, everything changed. For all of us, I know, March 15th, I remembered as clear as day. It's only, 6-7 months ago. Locked it all down here in Portland, Oregon. Where I'm coming from right now is my backyard. I live in a house here in Portland, Oregon. I built a shop in my backyard. I showed that to you guys last year, I think. But there's a tough shed to the north, another little tough shed for merch and things and stuff. There's a fence to protect us, from anarchy in here in Portland. That's bullshit. That's where I park the van. That's where Lee parks her car. But this is our little universe. There's a 10-step commute between house and shop. This is our little 5,000 square foot universe. Everything is closed circuit here. And oddly enough, that worked very well for, a pandemic, which is surreal, right? So Portland went into hibernation, and so did we. Buddies would come over to help. Here's my buddy Steve would help with the lawn. We kept him to 6 feet away. Dave Nakamoto came over, turned 50. Happy birthday, Dave. I kept him to 6 feet away. We had film crews here and shit, but we kept him 6 feet away. So we locked down. The masks were up, like they were supposed to be, and we got into this sort of routine. But it took a little getting used to, but we are masked up. We wear our masks every time we leave the property here. So when things locked down, it was my instinct to triple down on all these projects because being busy is a security blanket for someone like me, When I'm busy, I've got a purpose. When I don't have anything to do, shit gets weird, right? So I took all these jobs. And before I knew it, I was just slammed. And this whole avalanche of work and the Zoom calls and the emails and the check-ins and the things, it just freaked me out. Like there was some silver lining that we were starting to smell, a month into this thing, that maybe we could try things a little bit differently. Busy is just the mode that I've been in for the last 15 years. That's all I know. So for someone like me to downshift, it's hard for me. Because when you don't have anything, and then you start to get something, you hold on to that for years and years and years and years. So I put my head down. I hammered for a good hard month, month and a half, completed all the projects, and then I turned it all off. I fulfilled all my obligations professionally, we'll just say, right? Because some of the projects were really, really big. Good work. But bigger isn't always better, you know? And I just sensed that I could use my time in a different way. I made some changes. Here's a little something I dug out of one of my dad's little junk drawers back in Michigan. It was this old button that was 8 hours of labor, 8 hours of recreation, 8 hours of rest. And maybe it was some sort of union button, you know, to fight for workers' rights or something. I don't know what the sort of history of this thing was. But I took this thing from Michigan, I brought it back to here, and it really got me thinking, 888. Because my life hasn't been like that. My life has been 18-6. You know what I'm saying? I worked all day. But to downshift and really focus on having 8 hours of work, 8 hours of play, 8 hours of sleep and rest, and, you know, the idea that I have 8 hours of play to go do whatever the hell I want. That's not back here. That's a foreign concept to someone like myself, you know? So we started 9 until 6 like regular people do. And then I'd go back in and we'd have a nice dinner, and then we'd do puzzles, Lee and I. I'd play Tetris. Shit, Lee was baking bread, like we all were, you know. I watched a bunch of old movies I remember from this. Is one of my favorites from my childhood, My Bodyguard. I watched it twice. It was grainy and incredible. And every time when he knocks that hunk of shit out at the end, I cry like a baby. 47 years old, still. I went and had my nails done by my little sister, Leah, who does nails, and they look beautiful. Someone get a zoom on that thing. I fixed my van up a bunch. You know, I murdered out the wheels and redid the front grille, and it looks all badass. I mean, I didn't have the time for that a year ago, but I also got to fix all this other shit in the van. Like someone hit my passenger side rear window, smashed it. I had to fix it. I had to take off the door panels and get deep in there and new parts. Because here's the deal. I know you could take that to the Ford dealer, but that's $300, man. Screw that. I fixed it myself, and I left a couple little Easter eggs for the next guy who has to go in there. That's inside the door panel right now. I got back into my Legos. I still have all my original Legos from when I was a kid, and of course, the sort of success that I've had, I can buy Legos when we go to Target now. So I rebuilt my office, and the sort of things I do, like playing records or, well, sitting on my ass for too long and dying at a young age from a sedentary lifestyle. I recreated all these scenes. I got into carving again and whittling little chain links and things, cut the shit out of my finger one afternoon. I had time to go just do things that I forgot about, right? So there's a lesson there, you know? I also had time to try to keep up with shit. We got a bike. You know, I have a trainer, but after things went down, I couldn't go to my trainer anymore. So I've been riding this bike, you know, every night for 30 minutes, 500 calories, sweating like a water buffalo on that thing. I've lost about 2 ounces off my ear. This shit just sucks. I lost 40 pounds last year. What do they call it? The COVID-19, fuck that. I put back on the COVID-20 in the last 7 months. That's a lot of fun. So thank you, 2020. But I had all this time for me, and I'm not used to that. And that only lasted so long. I started to itch to get back to the pace. I mean, of course, there were other things going on, but I wasn't beholden to chasing a buck. And that's new for me, you know? I mean, it was a privilege to have that time. I feel embarrassed to kind of say that because I had friends who had it a lot rougher. We built this situation back here to brace for impact for for the shit that went down. I felt guilty enjoying the break, you know? That's just the truth of it. That's embarrassing to say, you know, because I know that you have to have rest for your body and you have to have rest for your mind. But I didn't get ahead. I didn't get all this shit with balance. I got it by saying yes all the time, you know. But when that starts to eat at you, that's not a healthy thing. You know, when you're working all the time and then having to give half of it back to Uncle Sam, it starts to mess with you, you know. So here's the flickering enlightenment number 1. All this time in my hands, time for some spring cleaning. The shop has never been cleaner. Thinned the hurt on the record wall a couple times, but I got my shop up, tip-top shape, but really it was digitally. That's where I really went and cleaned shop. And it was little things like this. Like I just go into old folders from, let's say, even 6 months ago, and I check for that one little click there. If you save that document as a PDF compatible, you're adding a lot of images and things to that document because when you open that thing up in a preview, if you just check that little guy there, you just uncheck that little guy, The cons would be that, you can't see the file and the previews and the folders and stuff. But the pros is that you start shaving 30, 40% off each folder. And that really adds up quick. I think I took something like 60 gigs off of my machine, which is a tenth or something of the cloud. Take the time, and you can really shave off some unnecessary data. Boy, I fucking nailed that one, didn't I? I hope that shit's recording. All right. So I do a couple months of this where I turn it all back on because I kept getting hit up with these sort of juicy things. If I'm going to work again, and get back into this, instead of just chasing a buck, maybe I could just go after sort of coronavirus awareness stuff. Adobe hit me up. They wanted this project called the Adobe Heroes. And I got to pick someone from a list and honor these people with a graphic. The first person to do it was Shepard Fairey. And I got to do Eric S. from Denver. Thank you, Eric S. Eric S. works on the front lines of your grocery store. And when we go to the Safeway 2 blocks from here, we thank those people all the time. And it's through the mask, and it gets kind of weird. But just to take that time to thank these people and say, you're a human, I'm a human. Thank you for risking so much in here to keep this place comfortable for the rest of us. Thank you. So thank you, Eric S. There's a project called Erase COVID. I got to do a little poster for it, with a little graphic about washing your hands. This is all good, healthy stuff. Wash those hands. You can call it, having to comply or whatever. No, how about just for the sake of humanity? Just do your part, So if you can make a fun graphic for that, that's a good, healthy thing. Little posters talking about locking shit down, because that's what we did here. If you can do it with a little bit of humor, maybe that'll get to someone. Or this project from HP that came after me. Now, this came through a big agency in San Francisco, and they wanted to put this thing out so people could print these things out and then tile them across their windows and stuff. And I got this little graphic going where the idea is, even though we're inside, collectively, we're still all kind of connected just sort of with the magic of that, right? So when I built this thing, I really thought about how these things connect, how they work together, how they tile out. When you jam them together, they all come together. And then, of course, if you fill up a window with these things, that looks pretty awesome and really gets this idea of, all of us connected inside our homes, but it can really burn through a lot of toner. So I made one that's just black and white as another option, for those who are a little more, toner minded, we'll just say. And here I am putting it to work and just gazing out into the great wide open on our avenue here in Portland. Now, this is something I can't talk about because my buddy who is a nurse and works in a COVID ward here in Portland, they're actually doing it. These guys have layers and layers of the PPE, gear on, and hoses and things and glass and masks and stuff. And they're doing this job every day, saving people and also having to let some people go. It's a heavy, heavy job right now. But he hit me up and he said, listen, I see you doing all this stuff, Draplin. Can you make us a sticker or something? I'll just kind of put it around. And I did. And these things are all over an undisclosed hospital somewhere here in the Northwest. And maybe just giving people just a little bit of, pride in what they do and a little bit of levity. This sort of West Side COVID killers, we salute you. Thank you. Brian Schwartz, who's the manager of one of my favorite bands from high school, Dinosaur Jr., he hits me up and he says, hey, man, can you make us a little logo for this thing called the Mask Challenge? Because the idea was, wear that mask. The more you wear that mask, the more we beat this thing back, the quicker we can get these bands back on stage. And I'm down with that. So I helped out the little logo. And of course, there's no paycheck here, but we did negotiate a lifetime of backstage access to Dinosaur Jr. So thank you, Jay Mascis. But of course, I go off the rails. Now, for every project that I did, there's just a lot of stuff where I was just kind of reacting. And I would just kind of go and kind of vent on these things, and make these little graphics where, I'm just trying to work this stuff out in my own brain. You're hearing these news quips. No one's telling you, up is down, down is up. And it's scary. It's a scary time. And I'm just making these, that's the truth here with the sweatpants thing. But, of course, I'm so thankful for Lee. Thank you, Lee, for, managing me during these last 7 months. Here's some truth for you guys. Give this to your little, 14-year-old cousin, Okay. Flickering enlightenment number 2. It's hard to be cut off from the world. With that pace that we were keeping for all those years, when we shut it all down, we kind of shut it all down, But I got hit up a bunch to do these pep talks and, just to come into kids who were trying to, who weren't allowed to graduate, just spent 4 years in some college and not allowed to graduate like they were, sort of gunning for. And I would come and talk to them and just kind of say, hey, here's how I'm handling this stuff. So think about this. You guys have this time in your hands. You use it this way. Little pep talks. I did a bunch of these things. I didn't say no to any of them. But before I knew it, I was buried in these things, and I was doing 3 and 4 a day, and it was fun to bullshit with a bunch of new people and stuff. And I knew a lot of people from the road too. One teacher tells his other teacher friend, and before you know it, she's calling you, he's calling you. Before you know it, your whole day, your whole afternoon is talking to people. And that's kind of when, Lee noticed how it was really starting to like eat at me, that I was like using up my whole day doing these things. So I got the look from Lee. And that's when I just had to slow my pace down yet again. Listen, it's not lost on me how fortunate, how privileged, how lucky I am to get hit up with the jobs that I get hit up every couple days. Some big, some small, some I take, some I can't take, whatever. But I kept politely passing these things up. I was overwhelming myself. So what I did was I got a little referral roster going, right, of some friends and colleagues. So I would just ask you, if you guys have a ton of work, you're lucky. Don't be afraid to pass it on to your colleagues. Now listen, these are all people I look up to. Some of them are buddies, some of them I'm just a fan of. But when I list these names, Alana Louise and Clark Orr and Aaron OK Pan Seacrest and Lauren Dick down in Austin and Rob Zilla Generate out in Baltimore and Brett Stenson here in Portland. But these are people that I trust to take these jobs, Maybe they need that work. So don't be afraid to pass those names on, you guys. Now here's a weird one. I'm calling it getting out of the way. But really, it's lessons in empathetic activism. That's the best way I can put it. Because on May 25th, 2020, we lost Mr. George Floyd. A man was murdered, and that's police brutality, okay? However you slice it. And yet, when I read that he, about his life and his family, some of his shortcomings, some of his things to celebrate, I also read that he was born one day before me. We're the same exact age. He was a human being. I'm a human being. But I don't fear losing my life when I'm pulled over for speeding or whatever the hell. I don't fear being shot in the back when I'm pulled over. This is what this community has had to deal with for years and years and years. And I just cried my eyes out. And when I posted this, man, the trolls came out. And just with vile, heartless, ignorant messages. I mean, coming right after me, battling other people saying, hey, solidarity. But no, people took it upon themselves to say this bullshit. It was just surprisingly hateful stuff, and that stuff doesn't go away. It's still on there. So the worst stuff I had to remove because it was just embarrassing. I'm just here to say, I support the Black Lives Matter movement. There you go. It's beyond me that people won't acknowledge the just violence, injustice, the disenfranchisement and systematic racism inflicted on our fellow people, our fellow citizens. That shit is real. And people are going to battle that stuff. This barrage of comments, it really messed with me. It jades you, you retreat, and then you start to hide. But it's the couple people that reached out that said, you're not saying enough. You're not doing enough. Draplin, you can do more. This is the stuff that stuck to my ribs. So I reached out to some friends. I reached out to some folks I didn't know, people I looked up to, people whose work I liked, or people who commented in a thoughtful, civil way. I reached out to these people. I had some rough conversations. I offered up my platform. Instead of me fumbling around trying to make sense of this shit from my privileged perspective, which is just never going to really work, I got out of the way and I let people post. It amplified voices in such incredible ways. I was so proud to do this. Thank you, Chris Cloud. He came after me and we had a rough chat and he made these things because Black lives really fucking matter. Put it up and I got out of the way. I started to reach out to people, made buddies with a guy named Rasan Jackson. We had some incredible conversations. He made some art, showed his art, and said what he had to say. Powerful stuff. Me reaching out to Jade Purple Brown saying, I love your work. Can I show this stuff? I would be honored to have you on here. I want to see more art like this and more beauty like this. Go. And she did. It was so cool. Or this kid I met down in Anaheim at this big designer con poster and art and toy show. This guy named Darnell came to my booth and we hugged it out. And I reached out to him after seeing him leave some really powerful comments after this stuff went down. He made some art. And he put it on there. Say her name, Breonna Taylor. Say her name. My buddy Cyrus Coleman in Portland here. Oh, I love showing this guy's work. Cyrus Coleman, he's my buddy. He came to the shop. But he already had a job at Nike. But I was so proud to say, hire this guy. He's got the talent. And I just love showing his work. So hell yeah, Cyrus. My buddy Rick Griffith out in Denver, and his Shop at Matter project, and all these kick-ass letterpress things he makes. Some of the most poetic stuff printed. Go check it out. Powerful, powerful shit. Dr. Griffith, thank you. Danielle Clark out in the UK. You know, when I was a little kid in Detroit, I remember the Motown just vibe, you know. I remember those records. I remember those sounds. And that What's Going On, which was a reaction to police brutality so long ago. Well, this shit's still going on. And she made this graphic as it stretched out. I find this graphic really powerful, but also really sad, you know. Troll harassment aside, I learned some powerful stuff, made a bunch of changes, and made some friends in the process. And that's a win, and no one can take that away from me. So thank you to everybody who reached out, who helped to kind of coach me, who were so patient with me, you know, to listen. And I taught me how to listen and learn and help people a little bit more. Thank you. Thank you. And hey, and anyone listening here, you want to strut your stuff on the DDC Instagram? Well, hit me up at Draplin. I'll show your stuff. Put it out there. Let's make your voice as loud as possible, which leads me to flickering enlightenment number 3. Make their voices as loud as possible. Use your platforms to lift people and get these words out there. This shit needs to happen. I'm trying to do my part. It's my duty as a human being to amplify the voices of friends, colleagues, and new friends whose voices need to be heard, and I'm going to continue to do that. Here's something I learned. I mean, we joke about this shit, but don't feed the trolls. When you really look at some of these people, when you really go look at their lives and what they're posting about, a lot of these guys just hide behind these private profiles. You can't even see their lives, but the ones you can see, too many times you can see that they're hurting, or they're posting shit that you just don't sort of understand. And they have rough portfolios and they're just kind of littering out there. You know, have a little empathy for that. Instead of just me fighting them back and forth, I try to understand why they're saying what they're saying. And that was a change for me, you know. I mean, I'd love to share all the apologies I got from people I had to block. A minute later, you get this email saying, I didn't mean to do that. I didn't mean to say that. I was just messing with you guys. No. You're an adult. You said what you said, and it was gross. Out. See you later. And then they're hitting me back because I want back in. I'm a fan of your stuff, Draplin. I got a bunch of those emails. It's funny how that stuff works. Nope. See you later. There's always going to be someone who needs a little bit of help. Don't be afraid to offer up your services to your friends, to someone who hits you up, be it the platform or be it a little bit of vectoring or whatever the hell it is. Like, you know, my buddy hit me up, Steve Carter. He's a bartender here in Portland. He lost his job. He got laid off. So what did he do? He became the lawn tender. Started coming to people's houses. He'd fix you a couple drinks and then mow your lawn. Hopefully not drunk. But he'd mow your lawn and he'd go on to the next house. And he's busy as hell. And I made him a logo and a t-shirt and stickers and goodies for that. Instagram graphics. There's no money there. Got to make a poster for Trans Lifeline through Murmur Creative. And this one continues to go out there and raise money for the trans community. Or my buddies at Seizure calling me and saying, hey, lay this poster out. So when I show this thing, I mean, this is a heavy poster, but these are the names of people. Keaton Otis, Kendra James. These are people that have lost their lives to police brutality in Portland, Oregon. This is real. I can find that time, 20 or 30 minutes of my time just to tune this thing up and get it back out there. There's no sash you get to wear. I'm not going to, of course I'm going to post that and say, hey, I believe in this. It's tricky stuff, but there's time for that. This is the stuff that really matters, you know? The time is now to say these things. So just maybe learn how to say yes in creative ways instead of worrying about the top dollar or the bottom dollar or timing or creative control. I mean, you've heard this from me before, but I'm always open to saying yes. Pandemic peoples, instead of binging my little brain on Netflix, I'm trying to be open to use this surreal time to make a difference for people who need a hand. Not just with my design skills, with anything. You need to come use the van? Come use the van. You know what I'm saying? Or hit me up and maybe I can help you make your poster. Here's some recent work and we'll get you guys out of here. I got to work for my favorite heavy metal band in town, Red Fang. They got to make this pedal. I got to work for NASA. They're a small space organization. And this is all about earth sciences and about the stratospheres and all the different layers and this idea that like right this very second, we're in this universe just a speck within a speck within a speck. And check these out. This is our new field notes set called the United States of Letterpress. You know, these things are super rare. Every one of these things was pressed a couple times on all sorts of different presses. We detailed all of that. Got to do my first blanket with my buddies at Rumpel here in Portland. We have another one coming, of course. And while I've got you guys all listening here, I'm gonna try to rip this thing out of here to show you guys what this thing looks like. Okay, so check this thing out. This one's coming this fall. Got to do a puzzle with my buddies at Mondo. I got to do a watch. I got to do a watch with Timex, you guys. Timex takes a lick and keeps on ticking, right? I got to work for the Timbers through Danner Boots and make my first scarf and a bunch of pins and patches and stickers and buttons and cool shit. I got to work for my buddies at Inch by Inch and did their 50th button set all about the cosmos. And my favorite project from the last year and a half was I got to do a stamp for America. Because too many times graphic design is only for those who can afford it. And sometimes graphic design shows up in places where everyone gets to use it equally. And that's what a stamp represents to me. The first one was 400 million stamps. Amazing. Now, a couple days ago, I showed my support for Joe and Kamala, and I would ask you to do the same. Vote, people, vote. Okay, so that's it. But of course, while I still got you guys here, come check out my girlfriend Lee's Notes to Self project. All sorts of badass pins and decals and patches and stuff. My favorite one, Bite Me. Okay, you guys. Wait. DDC 25. Where's it at? Where'd it go? Okay. All right. 25 years of the DDC, you guys. Thank you so much. In 1995, I made my first little piece of merch, just a goofy little t-shirt. I think we printed 50 of them. 25 years later, we're still alive and still at this stuff. So I just have to say thank you, and thank you to Graphic Design for having me. Thank you to Adobe for making incredible programs I've spent my life on. Thank you. And of course, to all of you who listen, stay strong, stay safe, stay vigilant. Masks up, motherfuckers. See you later. Thank you. Take care.